Hello, and thank you for joining me again today for another daily drawing. It's good to have you back again. So as before, we're just going to take 20 minutes away from all the busyness of today or anything that you've got going on, put aside all of your other thoughts, and we're just going to do a drawing together. So today we're going to be drawing a pumpkin, and I'm going to be using some drawing pencils. So I've got an HB, a 2B and a 4B and a rubber, but if you've just got one pencil that would work out fine. And if you feel like having to go with some colours today, colouring pencils or crayons would be fab for today's drawing too. So just remember our two rules: process over outcome. So don't get worried about how is it going to look at the end and it's not looking really good, and just focus on the process of drawing and making the marks on the paper. And remember to draw with me and not like me, so don't try to copy my drawing exactly. Look up and refer to it and listen to what I'm saying, but you just do the drawing that you want to do. And like I said, if you fancy doing it in a different media today or using colour instead of black and white, that would be absolutely fab. So go and grab those materials and your beverage of choice, and I'll see you in a moment. So we're going to get straight into the drawing today, and I'm going to use some drawing pencils. I've got an HB, a 2B and a 4B, and my eraser here as well. This pumpkin would actually look great if you've got some crayons, maybe even some coloured paper or brown paper, and then you could use your white crayon or a white gel pen or white marker pen if you did this in pen. So there's loads of different media that would look great for this, but I'm going to use pencil because I know that a lot of you will have pencils kicking about at home that you can use. And first of all, we're going to do a very light sketch of something a little bit like a squash circle. And just like before, we're not going to be worried too much about it being perfect or exactly like the image. We're just going to draw our own one and use this as our inspiration. So I'm drawing really lightly, and I am going to rub out some of these lines later, so you can just keep drawing until you get the line that you want. Don't worry about rubbing out just now. And then you're going to put in the stalk, wherever you'd like the stalk to be, and just a sort of oval like this, and then a couple of little sharp corners will be good. So keep your lines nice and light and nice and sketchy, and don't worry too much about it being perfect. So you can put in something like that to start off with, and then you decide how you want your stalk to go. I'm going to just take mine off like that. And you can look at the negative space here if you want to have something that's a similar-ish proportion to the one in the image. And similarly, you can look at the spaces behind the stalk as well, and you can move that around if you want to. And if you want to adjust your shape, just go ahead and adjust it as you work. Just finding the line that we like, so you can keep drawing until you get the line you like. Now we're going to mark in the sections of the pumpkin, and these really help to show the contours, so I'm going to start by looking at the biggest ones. And just keep your lines very light, very sketchy. And if you want to have it more curved, just move it around until you get where you want it to be. And then if you see the sections that are at the back, they go actually almost backwards. And then join the curve of the pumpkin. And then you can add the sections. You can stick to the image or just make them up if you want to. So if you look, I'm going for one similar to this in terms of almost just a straight line. And I'll pop a couple more. not going to be overly worried. I'm keeping it all very light. And I know I can move these lines around if I want to. Can't actually see too much about what's going on in the back there because there's so much light hitting it here. But something like that. And then what you can do when you're ready is just take away any lines that you find distracting. Move things around a little if you want to, or keep the shape you like. And I'm just going to put in a slight curve at the bottom here between each section. So just keep moving things around, adjusting things. And then every now and again, just stop and take a little look at the whole image and see if you feel like you've got what you would like. So I'm going to put some contours into the stock as well, in a very similar way. I'm really not too fussed about the image in front of me, just kind of enjoying following the line but maybe giving it a little twist. So now if you have colours, this would be a great time for you to think about using your colours. But I'm going to switch up and I'm going to go first of all to my darkest. So putting my HB down, I'm going to use my 4B. But if you've just got one pencil, or if you're using pen and you want to use hatching or whatever you want, you just go with the way that you'd like to do it. But I'm going to think about these darker tones and darker marks that are around the bottom of the pumpkin here. And I can just use the side of my pencil and I'm going to put those in like so. And as I go over and over my lines, the tone will get darker as the graphite builds. So I can control exactly how dark I want to go. And I'm sticking just to the bottom to start with. Adjusting my grip if I need to get a little bit more control. Just shading around these darker tones that look like dark reds. And I'm still just keeping form, but I'm not worried too much about matching exactly what's there. I'm just thinking about these sections, these contours putting them in nice and loose. So if you're using pencils that are a bit softer, like a 4B and a 2B, you might want to have something to stop you getting graphite onto the side of your hands and obviously smudging your image a little bit. So I'm going to start to look at just putting in these lines a little darker in the places where I want to. So you can decide yourself whether you want this to be a little bit more loose, a little bit more scribbly, or whether you want to have something a bit smoother. The main thing to think about is just enjoying laying down some tone, thinking about these nice curves which help to show three-dimensional form. So I'm just laying those down a little darker because those lines appear darker here, and then I can look for where they might be even darker and just shift to using the tip of my pencil instead of the side. I'm putting those in spots. So our light is coming down from here, so this area will be the very lightest area, and we've got dark tones around here. So I'm going to put a bit more tone around these sides here. Always just keeping my contours and then putting some tone into the different sections, bearing in mind where the lightest areas are. But don't worry if you feel like you accidentally put tone where you don't want it to go, because we can enhance those highlights at the end by rubbing out any areas we don't want to have any shading on. So I keep all of my shading in the lines of the contours, so in the direction. But then when I want to put in a little bit more of some of like the textured areas, maybe I'll shift away a shade. So do what works for you. So as you shade, you might actually want to build even more graphite onto your darker areas that you marked before. And just build it up. So just glancing at the image just to see where you think you might put some tones, but also just using your knowledge of where the light is hitting it, and also the knowledge that you can come back and lighten some areas, just always making sure that you don't lose those contours that help to show the different sections, because they help a lot to keep the form. So as I get to these parts, I'm thinking a little about where this light might be, but I can also see the shadow of the stock, which I'll think about putting in after. But you can still keep a little eye on these areas. I'm just laying down now a little more graphite into those darkest parts so I don't lose the different tones. And you can see I've just shifted my grip actually to get those very darkest tones in. I'm now holding my pencil a lot closer to the tip, helping me just to put a little more pressure as well as building up the layers. So I'm going to switch to my 2B pencil to put some of these tones in. Mine is not the same as this one, but I'm just using it as a bit of a reference, just to put tone in roughly the right place. Just keeping those sections clear. And then a bit of tone around the back of the stalk. And then I'll put in the shadow. And then I can see the stalk here as it meets the orange. It's really dark. So back to the 4B for that. And marking some of those lines a little heavier. So just work at your own pace. When you finish, just fast forward over to the end of this to see how mine turns out. But I'm nearly there. Just going to put in some of the small details now. So of course, if you have time, and you want to, you could add a bit of the background in, some shadows, the surface that it's sitting on. So I'm just going to use my rubber now. Just clean it up first. I'm just going to put in some of the highlights in case I've smudged a little. If you have a putty rubber, this is great for this as well. Or just keep cleaning your rubber up as you go. Tidy up around the top here. And really what I'd like to do is have a background in, because the background is actually darker. But instead I will just put a line in, just so we have something that we can see shape. If you want to add a few more details, you can do. I'm just going to put in a couple more little lines here. A little bit that I want to blend in. To make those darks a little darker. So I'm using my HB pencil, which just on top of the 4B is quite good for just blending in and filling in some of the gaps caused by the tooth of the paper. So I think I'll leave mine there. I always say that and then like 2 more marks. But yeah, I'm happy. So thanks for drawing with me today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'd really love to see all of your pumpkins, so you can share them with me on Instagram at the City Workshop. All the information's below, and I really hope that you can join me again tomorrow for another drawing. So I'll see you then.